What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Next Pats podcast. I'm Phil Perry, a wild card round edition of Next Pats coming at you, and we have a tremendous episode here because we're bringing in our good buddy from NBC and Peacock, Tony Dungy. You can watch him on Football Night in America, 7:30 this weekend. Obviously, 8:15. You've got Patriots, you've got Chargers kicking off in the first round of the postseason. But we had a great conversation with Tony about Mike Vrabel and the impact he's seen Vrabel make on this Patriots organization in year one. We're getting into the X's and O's about how the Patriots should attack this beleaguered pass protection unit that LA has featured ever since losing Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, two of the best tackles in football, protecting Justin Herbert. We're going to talk about what the Patriots should do as well, and whether or not he would take Drake Maye over Justin Herbert if he was starting an organization. But before we get to Tony, let's talk a little bit about how this game will be won this weekend. And I will be picking the Patriots to win, and it will be due in large part to what Drake Maye is able to do. But we're not talking all Drake Maye today. No, friends. The run game is going to matter this weekend, and let me tell you why. The Chargers might be the best defense the Patriots have played all year, but what they want to do, their philosophy, is to dare you, essentially, to run the football. They play with a lot of too high safety looks. They play with a lot of light boxes. That's 6 or fewer defenders right there between the tackles, between 5 and 8 yards off the line of scrimmage. They love to play with too high safety looks under defensive coordinator Jesse Minter. They actually do so at the 5th highest rate in the NFL, according to True Media. And that has helped them rank 8th best in the NFL when it comes to limiting explosive pass plays. Now, that has been the Patriots' game this year in 2025. They rank 1st in the NFL in terms of explosive pass rate. It's one of the reasons why Drake Maye might be MVP when this thing is all said and done. But they are playing with a lot of light boxes because of those too high safety looks. That means 6 or fewer defenders right there in the box to defend the run, potentially. And they're okay with allowing you to run the football. The Chargers have seen more rushing attempts against them while using light boxes than any other team in football, almost 200, 198, and they've allowed more yards because they've seen so many of those rushing attempts against light boxes, 1,053. They've also allowed the most touchdowns while deploying light boxes with 8. They allow 5.3 yards per attempt when using light boxes, which is actually 15th in the NFL. So they're right there in the middle of the pack. They do it well enough that they can get away with it. They can actually do better than just get away with it because overall this season, when it comes to their overall defensive output, they actually rank 8th in the NFL in EPA per play allowed. So this is a good defense, but it's a defense that will allow you to run the football. Can the Patriots hurt them when the Patriots see those light boxes that we know they will see this weekend? I think they can. The Patriots are actually 7th in the NFL in EPA per attempt when they see light boxes and they want to run the football. In the last month, as their running game has really taken off in terms of efficiency, they're 4th against light boxes in terms of yards per carry, 6.6, and they're 1st in EPA per attempt, and they're 1st in first down percentage, up over 50%. They are 1st with a bullet in that particular category. Think about that. Over half their runs against light boxes over the course of the last month have gone for first downs or for touchdowns. So, how might the Patriots try to run the football when they see these light boxes? They could go jumbo, friends. That means having an extra offensive lineman on the field. Of late, that has been Thayer Munford, somebody acquired mid-season, somebody who has had a real impact. Hasn't been perfect. Actually thought he missed a couple of blocks, potentially, in that game against the Dolphins to end the season, but it could be him. It could be Ben Brown. We've seen him in that role before. If Jared Wilson is healthy enough to get back into the starting lineup and the Patriots want to use him in that fashion, it could be Vidarian Lowe, who we've obviously seen on the field and playing while Will Campbell is out. They have options, but they do like these jumbo looks. And you know who else likes them? Drake Maye. Here's what he had to say about them earlier this week.
Yeah, it's a good chance to get them in big people. Also sometimes we got 3 receivers in there and have a jumbo tight end. So just trying to mix it up, give them some different looks in the run game. Adds the extra hat, a guy that's better at blocking than a guy that's sitting over there on the bench. So yeah, it's a 6th offensive lineman, and that's one of the biggest things. And being able to throw the football off play action and drop back and from different things all starts with being able to run the football. And I'm really proud of the guys, and especially up front, for how they've handled that. And I've had the best view in the house, and from my point of view, for some of these big runs, and just blocked up beautiful, and it's fun to watch.
These jumbo looks have been a real part of the Patriots' identity, especially of late. They're second in the NFL when they use an extra offensive lineman. They're averaging 6.7 yards per carry this season, and a whopping 71% of their plays with an extra offensive lineman have come since the bye. So over the course of the last 4 weeks, basically the last month, they have really turned to these types of packages. That might be due in part to the fact that they've lost guys like Matt Collins, so maybe they want to use those 3 receiver packages a little less often, but they want to get big, strong bodies at the line of scrimmage, moving people defensively and creating lanes for Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson to run through. As Drake Maye mentioned, that can help set up play action as well. This is the key to me for this game on Sunday. If the Patriots can control possession, if they can continuously move the chains, if they can run the football against a Chargers defense that is geared toward defending the pass, it's okay for them to take the football out of Drake Maye's hands as long as they're efficient when they're handing it off. How can they be efficient against these light boxes, against a defense that is daring you to run? Go heavy. Get bigger and stronger at the line of scrimmage and enforce your will. I think that will be the key. And if they can do it, they'll be moving on to the divisional round. All right, let's get to our conversation right now with Tony Dungy for much, much more on this Patriots-Chargers matchup. There he is, the great Tony Dungy, and I want to let you know before we get our conversation going, you will see Tony, of course, live from Gillette Stadium on Football Night in America beginning at 7:30 on Sunday on NBC and Peacock. Then, obviously, Chargers, Patriots, AFC wildcard round, 8:15 on NBC and Peacock. Tony, thank you so much for being here with us. It's a busy time of year. We really appreciate you spending some time with us on Next Pats.
Well, I'm fired up, looking forward to it. It's going to be a great atmosphere Sunday night, and I think we're going to have a great game.
I think so, too. I love this matchup, but I wanted to start by asking you, in particular, Tony, about the head coach here in New England. Mike Vrabel has done such an incredible job of establishing a culture, establishing an identity in year one, having obviously sat in that seat yourself. What have you made of the job that Mike Vrabel has done in really getting his program established as early as he has?
I am so impressed getting it turned around in year one like this. Rodney Harrison and I went up to Foxborough to do an interview with Mike before the Buffalo game, the first Buffalo game. And just being in the building, talking to the players, talking to the staff, you could sense that there was a completely different atmosphere in the building. And Coach Vrabel is responsible for that, bringing everybody together with his vision and getting everybody to believe. And to do it so quickly, I just have to take my hat off to him.
How difficult is it, Tony, to really truly establish relationships with all of your players? Because it feels like that has been a real focus of Vrabel's, is establishing and building a team. He made it very clear to those of us covering him in training camp. We're here to build a team, and it didn't necessarily mean, build a roster or build a set of schemes or concepts that they're going to use X's and O's wise on the field. It meant he wanted to get to know them. He wanted the players to get to know each other. But there's so many people in a football organization and in the football operation, as you well know. How challenging is that to truly establish relationships with everybody in a football locker room to the point where Vrabel has it seemingly right now?
And that's where I have to give him a lot of credit. It's natural to talk to your players and to get them on board. But I know some people in that organization in the front office. Jim Whalen, their trainer, was with me in Tampa 25 years ago, and talking to him. Yes, Mike has impacted the training room. So it's not just the players, it's everybody. And that takes work. And you have to give Coach a lot of credit for that.
And obviously, Mike Vrabel, defensive background, Tony, defensive background, you yourself, it feels like maybe there's a little bit of a shift happening. You tell me, league-wide, obviously we're seeing head coaching positions turn over right now. There are interviews that are starting to be fired up, and so whether it's Vance Joseph or Brian Flores or Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator that the Patriots are about to see this weekend, do you feel like organizations might be more open to welcoming defensive guys as head coaches? Because it felt like for years everybody was looking for the next hot offensive coordinator to run their football program. But do you think maybe there's a shift happening, and why might that be?
Well, I think it's been smart on the owner's part. The narrative for the last few years, hey, we're going to draft a young quarterback. We're going to pay him a lot of money, so I better get a coach who can fix the quarterback. And that seemed to be the MO for years. But you look at some of the turnarounds here lately, Coach Vrabel there. And, yes, he has Josh McDaniels, and the quarterback is now an MVP candidate, even though the head coach isn't a quarterback coach. Mike McDonald in Seattle. And they're the number 1 seed. And he hires Clint Kubiak, and they're doing things a little bit differently. And Sam Darnold's having a great year. So I think what owners are starting to understand, let me hire a leader. Let me not worry about what his expertise is. If he's the leader and he can bring that vision, he can change the culture, I have to trust him to be able to hire the right people to handle the quarterback.
Yeah, and it feels like Mike Vrabel has done that, and he's been able to really coach up Drake Maye himself, and maybe not so much with the where he should be looking in a given play against a given defensive concept, although I'm sure he could do that too. But a lot of it looks like to us, Tony, has been how to lead and how to lead from that position. And Drake Maye is still such a young guy. It feels as though he's taken to that part of his job. How have you noticed Drake Maye? Obviously, he's been a great player, but as a leader from what you've seen of him this year.
No, trust me, Bill Belichick had a lot of conversations with Tom Brady. I was a defensive coach. I had a lot of conversations with Peyton Manning. And you're telling them about that very thing. Hey, here's what you have to do to be successful. Here's how you have to lead our team, Drake. And he was a leader when he got there. But I think being empowered by Coach Vrabel and understanding his role and being kind of turned loose by Coach Vrabel. And in this second year, it's been amazing. But he is making the plays that need to be made. He is getting everybody involved. And his teammates love him. And that is the sign of a true leader.
And he won't have to obviously worry necessarily about what Justin Herbert's doing on the other side of the ball. Drake Maye, as he told us yesterday in his press conference, he's playing against the Chargers defense. But it's still fun for us to break down the matchup in that way, right? So, Tony, I'll put it to you. If you had to start a team with one of these two great young quarterbacks, Justin Herbert, Drake Maye, which way would you lean?
Well, that's hard to say because they're both talented. They're very similar. They're leaders. They're capable of making the big plays. They're both mobile. They're accurate. Justin Herbert's arm is like nothing we've seen in the NFL. He can throw those lasers 65 yards. But Drake Maye he's got that certain win. So I'm avoiding the answer to that question. Drake Maye's a little younger. He's done it a little earlier. I think a lot of people would lean to Drake because of that. But Justin Herbert is sensational. And it's going to be a very, very interesting game from the quarterback standpoint Sunday.
I think so, too. I would love to pick your brain from a scheme and a game planning standpoint. We love bringing on smart people who could teach us more about the game and what we might see on Sunday, Tony. Obviously, the Chargers have dealt with a lot of injury on their offensive line, and specifically those two tackles that they lost. It might be two of the best in the game in Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater. If you are a defensive coach and you were going up against an offensive line that you knew was using some backups in some different spots, but you had a mobile quarterback on the other end, how much you try to game plan against that offense to take advantage of what might be a weak link up front?
Well, what helps you with those offensive line injuries, you don't have to rush multiple guys. You don't have to blitz to get pressure because you're going to be able to win some of those one-on-one battles. But the key is, how do you contain the quarterback when you do win? You can't just tee off and rush haphazardly. You've got to have a plan against Herbert because his big plays getting out of the pocket can hurt you. So it's just like playing against the Patrick Mahomes. You've got to rush well and you've got to rush smart. And you really want to try to keep him in the pocket. And that becomes the second part. Yes, beat your man, but keep him in the pocket.
And then on the other side of things for the Patriots, they're going against, Tony, what I think might be the best defense that they've faced all year with the Chargers. And it seems as though they like to use a lot of too high safety looks. And obviously, when you're in Tampa and those Tampa 2 coverages, that we're still seeing those across the league. And I'm sure you're watching them play out. And it feels as though teams are getting, really creative in terms of the way they get into those Tampa 2 coverages. But if you're Drake Maye and you love to throw the deep ball and you're seeing a lot of too high safety looks, how might that impact you?
Well, the key for Drake, I think, is going to be patience, and that's what the Chargers force you to do. They aren't going to give you the 3-play, 70-yard touchdown. They're going to see if you can go 10 plays, 8 minutes, not make a mistake. And Drake has to be patient, not get frustrated. I can make throws and understand that a 10-yard gain on 3rd and 7 is just as good as a 50-yard play if I keep it rolling. Patience will be the key.
And they have some veteran safeties there between, Tony Jefferson and Derwin James. I mean, is that allowing them maybe to, whether it's disguise or just execute some of those too high safety coverages better than most?
I think it's really execution. And Jesse Minter, their defensive coordinator, has them believing in the system. Hey, guys, and I just heard a stat as we were having our preparation meetings. They've given up, they've intercepted more passes than they've allowed touchdown passes. So that tells you what's happening. Their thing is make you throw 8 to 10 passes to score a touchdown. And in that, we can make something happen. Our pass rush, our coverage, we can knock a ball loose. We're not going to give you the deep touchdown pass. So that forces you to be patient. A lot of quarterbacks in this league aren't. I think Drake Maye will be, but that's going to be the test.
That's a remarkable stat. They have been rolling on that side of the ball. They're top 10 in points allowed and turnovers and sacks. So this will be a huge challenge for Drake Maye and this Patriots offense. It should make for a great, great game. Make sure you watch Tony, 7:30 football night in America on Sunday. Tony, thanks again for being with us here. Safe travels up to Foxborough and enjoy the game this weekend.
Thank you. I have to say, I never really looked forward to coming to Foxborough when I was with the Colts, but I am looking forward to Sunday night now.
Should be a great night. Thanks again, Tony.
Yeah, already.
Coming up, we're talking a little bit of draft. We're taking some of your mail as well. More on Patriots Chargers. It's all next on Next Pats. Welcome back to Next Pats. Let's launch right into our Who's Next segment, and we're focusing on the wide receiver position this week. And we're going to focus actually on 2 former teammates. And we're going to start with Jacoby Lane from USC. Now, we've actually already on Next Pats earlier this year highlighted Lane's teammate, Mekhi Lemon. And Mekhi Lemon is going to be the one who goes first in all likelihood between these 2 particular prospects. But Lane, to me, a very interesting type of receiver for New England moving forward, because when you have Drake Maye and you want to build around him and you want somebody who can make contested catches because Drake Maye is going to be willing to try to fit the football into tight windows, when you want to help your red zone offense, which is an area in which the Patriots really have struggled this season. They've been better since they've come back from the bye. Remember, they used quarterback design run game in that first game back from the bye against the Buffalo Bills. That helped them get started. Now we've seen the run game come back to life. And so they've been better in that regard. But next year, do you have the pass catching personnel to continue to succeed down inside the 20? Well, Jacoby Lane could be somebody who helps them solve that problem. 6'4", 200 pounds, all kinds of hand-eye coordination. You've seen one-handed grabs on his tape. You have seen him make catches when he is absolutely smothered in coverage. He isn't going to separate like a Mekhi Lemon. That's not necessarily his style of game, but the ability to track the football, his hands at the catch point, his competitiveness, his size, his length, all of these things could make him a really nice fit in this Patriots offense moving forward. Now, he does look like an X receiver to me. We're going to talk a little bit more about that particular role within the Patriots receiver room when we get to our mailbag, but you could see some names that you like and that already on the Patriots roster become used a little bit less if you end up spending, say, a day 2 pick on Jacoby Lane, but you might help your offense get to another level. Another former USC wide receiver, most recently at Georgia, Zachariah Branch also recently declared for the NFL draft in a much different kind of wideout compared to Lane. Branch is going to check in around 5'10" and well under 200 pounds, probably closer to 180 than to 200. So you're talking about a lighter, explosive, blazing quick sort of water bug type where you could use him all over the formation. I love the fit for somebody like Josh McDaniels who could get really creative with a player like this. Now, we've already seen him use, for example, Pop Douglas out of the backfield and catching a touchdown because he got matched up on a linebacker. For somebody like McDaniels who can move his chess pieces all over the board if he feels like they are suited to handle those types of responsibilities, you could see him doing that with Branch, who has been taking carries out of the backfield before, who has been used in the return game as well because he's so dynamic with the ball in his hands. At Georgia this year, again, after transferring from USC, 81 catches, 811 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That's an explosive player. You compare him to Jacoby Lane, who had 49 catches on 745 yards. Again, explosive, but in a different kind of way. Two very different receivers in very different packages. Would it mean less work for Pop Douglas if they were to go ahead and draft somebody like Zachariah Branch? He's ranked in the top 5 among receivers by our buddy Mel Kiper from ESPN. And so maybe the Patriots would have a chance at drafting him, but if he's one of the 5 best in college football, is he going to make it out of the first round? He's going to be an early second-round pick. Would he get down into the later part of the second round or maybe even to the third round for New England to take a chance on him? I don't know. But I do know in this offense, in particular with this offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, the idea of Zachariah Branch makes a lot of sense. So 2 receivers for you there, very different types of players. Both, I think, could help New England in the near future. All right, it's time to get into your mail, and we're going to talk much more about this Patriots-Chargers matchup here because Toxic LDR wants to know, what are the keys to the game? The way he sees it, turn Landry and Chason loose on that offensive line. Run the dang ball. Put together long, sustained drives that keep Herbert on the bench. I don't hate those, Toxic LDR, and you heard us talk about using those jumbo packages and attacking Chargers light boxes with the Patriots running game. Let's stick with the Patriots offense, and another key for me would be just taking care of the football. They are as opportunistic a defense, LA is, as any the Patriots have seen this year. They rank 2nd in the NFL in interception rate, and part of that is because they play so much zone that they have their eyes in the backfield. They have their eyes on the quarterback, and when you have players like a Derwin James, like a Tony Jefferson, these guys are going to be aggressive as all get out to get their hands on the football and create problems. They also have a very legitimate pass rush led by 3 players who all rank within the top 50 of Pro Football Focus's top pressure players coming off the edge. Tui Pelotu, he has 70 pressures this year. That puts him inside the top 10. Odafe Owe, he has 47. That ranks him 31st. And Khalil Mack, of course, we know what he can do. He has 39 pressures this year, which ranks him 50th. So Drake Maye is going to have to protect the football inside the pocket. And then when he's throwing the football, just beware of all of those eyeballs that are going to be on him as LA is deploying its zone looks. Now, good for the Patriots. They have a quarterback in May who absolutely dices up zone coverage. He's 1st in the NFL in EPA against zone this year. He's 3rd in yards per attempt against zone, and he's 4th in quarterback rating when he sees zone. His rating is at 102.1. So it's a good matchup for the Patriots offense between their ability to run the football with an extra lineman on the field against those lighter fronts and Drake Maye's ability to carve up zone coverage. One other key for me very quickly would be defensively to both contain and pressure Justin Herbert. When he gets outside the pocket, he's a problem. He was 2nd in the NFL among quarterbacks in terms of rush yardage this year, and some of that was by necessity because of the problems that he's dealing with on his offensive line. But he also can hurt you with his arm when he's outside the pocket. He led the NFL in touchdown passes while outside the pocket this season. So you have to be able to keep him right there behind center, but you can't allow him to be comfortable either, because he'll carve you up. He's talented enough and he is smart enough to find openings if you don't pressure him while he is, quote unquote, in the well. How do you do that? Don't blitz him, because he's pretty good against the blitz. He's in the top 10 when it comes to yards per attempt, completion percentage, and EPA per dropback when blitzed. So it's going to be incumbent upon guys like Christian Barmore, Milton Williams, Kayvon Chason, Harold Landry to win their matchups. Maybe they can scheme up some games, twists, stunts to be able to confuse those backups on the Chargers offensive line and pressure Herbert that way. But you don't necessarily want to bring extra bodies. You want to contain him, pressure him at the same time while rushing with 4. All right, next question here is from Dennis. With every starting receiver on the roster technically under contract for next season, who's the odd man out if the Patriots sign Alec Pierce? All right, Dennis, so a nice little off-season question, but let's get a jump start on that. Never stopped us before. The only podcast in town that's talking about draft prospects since all the way back in September. Alec Pierce, to me, again, for some of the same reasons we talked about Jacoby Lane as potentially fitting with the Patriots, makes a lot of sense. Friend of the podcast, by the way, Alec Pierce. So maybe we're a little bit biased, but he came on with us when he was coming out of Cincinnati, and the Patriots were looking for receiver help in that draft. They ended up taking Tyquan Thornton instead of Alec Pierce. But they have a chance now to right that wrong. And again, makes a lot of sense because of the quarterback's skill set and the willingness and the ability to push the ball down the field with accuracy. Only Chris Olave of the Saints saw more targets, 20 yards or more down the field this season than Alec Pierce. And Pierce had 373 yards on those quote-unquote deep targets, which trailed only Jackson Smith-Njigba of Seattle, CeeDee Lamb of the Cowboys, and Zay Flowers of the Ravens. And Pierce's receiving EPA on those deep targets ranked 3rd in the NFL. That's with Daniel Jones throwing to him, Phillip Rivers, Riley Leonard. Pair him with Drake Maye, allow him to catch Drake Maye's passes deep down the field. I think you're going to see an even more productive receiver. Now, again, he would be an X for you. The guys who play that X spot here in New England right now are Kayshon Boutte and Kyle Williams. And you could see Mac Hollins, he does a little bit of everything. It feels like at times they have him playing almost a tight end type of role when he's really aligned tight to the formation, but he could play the X as well. So if you sign an Alec Pierce, again, similarly to maybe drafting Jacoby Lane with a valuable draft pick, you would be taking away from somebody like Boutte, maybe somebody like Kyle Williams, if you don't feel as comfortable using those guys at that Z spot or in the slot. That, to me, is an equation that the Patriots are going to have to consider moving forward, whether it's Mike Vrabel, John Stretch Stryker, Elliott Wolf, Ryan Cowden. How do they envision some of these players that are already on the roster growing their roles in 2026 and beyond? And do they feel like they need upgrades to help continue to elevate the play of their quarterback as he ventures further into his pro career here? But interesting potential fit there in free agency for the New England Patriots. All right, that'll do it for this edition of Next Pats. Thanks so much for your questions. Thanks so much to the great Tony Dungy for being with us. Enjoy the game this weekend. It should be a fun one. We will be right back here next week discussing it all on Next Pats. We'll talk to you next time.